Hello. Anyone there?
Jordan.
Please say again.
Jordan, it's Glija.
Your audio not very good. Is it my Wi-Fi or what is the problem?
Let me try my other microphone.
Can you hear voices in the background?
Yep, I can.
It's very loud.
Quite loud.
Okay, so try to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You hear them?
Yeah, I can still hear them.
There are two ladies and they're talking very loud.
Mm.
Can you still hear them?
No, I can't. Now I cannot. I
Are you
can
quiet?
see them, but I can hear them, but they're quiet.
You can what?
I can hear them, but they are quiet.
You can hear them.
I can still hear them, but it's not as bad as just now.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to do. Maybe I can go here. Yes, there's a place where I can go. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't hear them now. This is better.
This is a storage room.
Oh, okay.
This is where they wash their stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah,
can't hear them, so it's working.
but it's very hot here. Ooh.
Oh. If you open the door, is it better?
I mean, I can stay here.
Hello, Martin. Hello, Martin. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Michael.
That should
Where's
work
Martin?
now.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Martin, it's hot here too, Martin. We're having about 80 degrees the next couple of days. So we're having a fall heat wave.
Oh, and then that means, but it's September, right?
Yes, well, a couple of weeks ago we were in the 90s and high humidity. Now we're having the best weather in Chicago the entire year. It's the fall, and it usually starts what we call Labor Day, early September till end of October. So last week or earlier this week, it was in the 70s, but last couple of days and next several days, it's going to be back to the high 80 Fahrenheit. Are you in Singapore or are you in Germany today? Where are you?
Martin's in France, but he just cut off. He cut off when you were talking about the weather.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button.
It's hot in France this afternoon, Martin.
Yes, it's quite hot, but also a bit rainy. Yeah, Michael, I just wanted to highlight to you something. When we talk about SMEs in Germany, these are people of 90% of those small companies have not more than 100 people working, and they have
that's very small. That's almost proprietorship.
No, but you always have to take into account this has a European background here, and we talk from the German perspective. And when we talk about SME, and so an SME with 1,000 people is no longer an SME. 1,000 is a big company for most of the companies in Germany.
Well,
and
thanks, Martin. I'll keep that in mind. I'm used to clients like Siemens and ABB where I work. So ABB had 200,000 people.
Yeah, whenever we talk about SMEs, and then you throw in the Karl Freudenberg or some other company with 20, 30,000 people, that employees, that's entirely wrong.
I only mentioned Freudenberg and OK because they've been a client, and I almost went to work in Plymouth, Michigan. So you mentioned seals, so I jumped in because they're a great example of static and dynamic seals.
But these guys are so big that this is irrelevant for us, because they wouldn't just work with us. We are looking.
Well, Martin, seriously though, a small company under 100 people in Germany trying to compete for door seals or all the static seals on the body of a car, I can't imagine that a car company would even consider them as qualified. If they're that SME, if they're that small, they're not even third tier in terms of automotive supply, are they?
No, they are not. They would be tier 4. But
Well, I'm assuming from what I know of the seal business, they wouldn't even be considered a vendor because the entry barriers, the capital cost, the custom molds, the presses. I mean, the Freudenbergs of the world can afford all that for every new car platform. The small SME that's fewer than 100 people trying to make door seals, I can't imagine they're even fourth tier. They're just
no,
not.
you would be surprised. There would be fourth tier, and the third tier companies, they are adapted to work with such small companies. And you would also be surprised that all the show cars for BMW for the trade shows are made by a company that has less than 30 employees.
Well,
The show
concept cars are around for many, many years and they're criticized because if you want to buy one in 5 years, you're not going to buy it. They're hand built for sure. Audi just announced one that looks like a Cybertruck. It's ugly. And it doesn't have a grill because it's all electric.
no no
Yeah,
no no don't,
they're hand built by small people, just like
yes,
Duesenbergs. Yeah.
and so are the all those auxiliary devices that are used in production, like small devices that help to handle specific devices better, like cables or so, that they're even bought by tier 1 companies from those tier 4 companies and included into their design. So we are talking when we talk about SMEs from a German perspective, that is more like a startup in the US than anything else. So that's also where we come from. Yeah.
Well, you said those companies are in trouble because the German car industry is down. So if there's SMEs on the factory floor that make a very specific conveyor belt or whatever, bless their heart. But again, the capital equipment is very different than what ends up on the vehicle market. To end up on the vehicle, you're probably tier 1 or 2. If you're tier
Yes.
4, maybe if you make a fancy sun visor for a car that's very
Yes.
limited production, you can be a tier 4. Everything
Yep.
else are very large companies. It's a big
Yeah, yeah.
industry.
But you would be surprised how much is done by those small companies with less than 100 people in Germany. So anyway, so we can start now. Hello, everybody. Roland is also here. Very nice. And Carl, I haven't talked with you for a long time. I have today a special edition because I wanted to tell you about the problem that large companies have. And I talk here about companies with 1,000 people or maybe 500 people in Germany, and not only in Germany, but also in Europe as a whole. I have talked with a few over the past 2 weeks after I talked with Frank Mattes, the one who wrote the book Now and New. And I tried to convince them that they would need an approach to innovation which is different from managing the daily operations. And you would not believe how difficult that is. And when hello Rich, good that you're here, because it's all about you today. Because I always think then about them, how difficult it is for those small companies to do innovation and then to do the pre-sales, because these people are not trained for doing pre-sales. They are more trained for having a product and then push it into the market, but they're not trained for iterative approaches where you go out and try to sell something without having the final product yet, maybe without even not knowing what would be the final product. And what I remember from you, Rich, is that you said that you invest a lot of time and money into do all the intelligence before you even start with a conceptual model. And I was thinking on how to convince a small and medium-sized company to adopt that approach. And I believe it's close to impossible because they wouldn't see the value in that. And then the company owners, they wouldn't see, why should we spend 50,000 euros on doing our intelligence just about the market before we even start? Well, according to your own experience, Rich, you say that this is very normal, right? For what you have seen in the US medium-sized companies.
That's correct. And the reason for that is this. The reason is that most of these companies already have a concept in mind, and they already have a preconceived notion that the problem that they're solving is worth solving.
Okay.
And therefore, the market intelligence and is important, but it's not seen as important as what they think their idea and the problem that they're going to solve and they can solve, and that they're going to go down this path of making this investment without really doing the due diligence of validating the market opportunity.
Yeah, so you front load everything, right?
Yeah.
And so ultimately, before you even start, then everyone is on the boat. Even the sales team is already prepared that 3 years down the road we have this product, and then everything is waiting. Everyone is waiting for that product to be pushed into the market.
No. Hang on a second. Nobody knows. The sales team, what you don't want to do is tell the sales team anything, because you want to be able to say, we're going into this to understand what the problem is that we want to solve and how much is that worth. And and that's the rub. Like I just said a minute ago, a lot of these medium and small and medium-sized companies, they think they already know the answer to the problem, and that problem may not even exist, or if it does exist, it may exist in a very small way, and it's not worth solving because it's not a scalable need across not only one segment but multiple segments where you can really scale and build the business around.
Okay. Yeah. And
so now all of a sudden, you're doing all this work, and sales is only involved from the standpoint that, and when I say sales, I'm talking about not selling, I'm talking about the sales relationship with potential customers or customers to go through market discovery with, and for them to give you introductions to those accounts, because they're the ones that have those relationships.
Okay.
So what needs to happen is you need to coach the sales guys that, hey, this is exploratory. We're going to understand what this particular customer's vision of what their needs are and what their vision of, the direction of the company is in the next 2 to 5 years. And where do they see their underlying technologies being in 2 to 5 years, and what are their projected needs in 2 to 5 years?
Okay.
And some customers can be very adequate in providing you that guidance, and others go, I don't know where it's going to be in 6 months. How can I even tell you that? Right? I mean, that's you hear that a lot.
Okay.
But it's more of a, okay, if they tell me I don't know where it's going to be in 6 months, well, give me your best guess. Ideally, what would be the ideal world for you, and what challenge is really worth solving, that you're having? And, sometimes in these discovery interviews, it takes you down an entirely different path than what you could even imagine, meaning, it could end up being a piece of software versus a piece of hardware, right?
Yes.
It could be, a new widget that you don't even envision even making, right? You don't have the competencies to make it, and it's really a find that is way outside of your box, and you just put that in the parking lot, right, of ideas, and you just move on, and because you're looking for problems that your company can solve, right?
Yes. And also for problems where you find someone who's willing to pay for, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because
And also for problems, now I'm talking in value innovation that you told that you have shown me for the first time 4 or 5 years ago already, Rich. And also you need to solve problems for which you have people that you can approach that have those problems, because that may not always be the case, right?
that's exactly right. And that's what I mean by scalable. That's
Okay.
exactly what I meant by scalable.
And also you need to find problems that for those exist people that have to pay for if they're not solved, because maybe the problem is solved at, is paid for at a completely different end. Then if someone has a problem and he doesn't need to pay for solving the problem, then he would be less inclined to buy.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes. So it all goes back to the old Dick Lee value innovation. I have his questionnaire here in front of me, and it comes with, I believe, 24, 25 questions. And I believe this was a questionnaire that was sent out to people when you were prospecting for companies that might need Dick Lee's services. Are you aware of that questionnaire? Do you remember? I believe you gave it to me a few years back.
Yeah, I sort of remember it. Read a couple of questions to me and it'll probably trigger my memory.
Okay, the first question that you have to fill out is let's assume that we want to work for a company and help them to do better innovation. Then Dick Lee, 20 years ago, would have asked the first question: how about leadership and strategy? Who is in charge of supporting and champion innovation? Is it the COO, managing director, or business unit head? And do they all support it, or is invention being led by a group in R&D or marketing, or by a committee? Even worse, probably. The second question would be: is the company strategy clearly defined and understood by all employees? And the link between strategy and innovation strategy is clear. Or the other way, there's no innovation strategy. There's a strategy write-up which has been developed by the senior leadership team. It has the detail of an operating plan, fills a 3-inch ring binder.
Yep, I remember.
It picked up dust after being finished.
Yep, I remember.
And just yesterday, I talked to the CEO of a 1,000 employees company, and it was about the software as a service. And so we were discussing about innovation, and then he even had difficulties to realize that his software as a service is not a product by itself, because it doesn't solve the problem of the companies. It's such a multi-purpose software that you need to adapt it to the existing structure where you implant that software. And implanting that software would be a months-long project that involves both the experienced seller or user of the software plus the unexperienced deployer, which is the ultimate client. And I believe that these software as a service companies always misunderstand that what they are doing is innovation, while they think they have a push-out product that all what you need is a clever guy on the phone who would sell that product. And he was not aware of that difference. And that is exactly Frank Matte's message. He says most people are not aware of what they're doing when they have an initiative for the market. And they're applying the wrong management tools, which is the ones for the core, for the non-incremental, or even the market penetration. When you're only into market penetration, as spoken from the Ansoff matrix, which also goes back to you, Edge, when you only have, all what you need is a good sales guy on the phone, and you do market penetration, then they would think that if they have a new product that requires adaptation at the operational level of the customer, they don't realize that this is innovative, and that they need to do an iterative approach. And almost each customer, if they're not identical from the customer's products, as seen from a customer's product perspective, it would be different, right? And then and you need completely different methods and management styles and management whatever approaches. So that's where I'm coming from. And the question is, the approach that you described, Rich, with your intelligence push to the front end, it goes back to a company strategy that at one point in time has been clearly defined and understood by those who were involved. And only then can you go forward and sell it. And I mean, to a new company that you want to approach, to adapt the same approach. So it's not, and this is not evident because they think they have set up the business 30 years ago and it works well. It produces, I mean, food on the table for everyone involved. So why would they adapt a different management approach for their new innovation project?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah. But now we are with the internet, we are more and more in an age of software as a service. And as I see it, the more I can also say, as a patent attorney, 50% of the patent applications that I do have at least a piece of software in it. There's no more.
Sure.
There's no more. I mean, every second invention has to do with software.
Yep.
And that means to me that the products are similarly complex. So, and each new product is what might have been incremental 30 years ago is now non-incremental and requires new approaches. And I find that that is difficult. And I talked with Frank also about his book, Frank Mattes, The Now and You, and we were discussing. And then I told him about my plan to do an initiative for the small and medium-sized enterprises. And then he said, "Oh, he's focusing only on the multinational,
large corporate,
large corporate multinationals, which today means not multinationals." And I asked him why, and then he said, "Oh, because of that, because the owners of the small companies never realize that they need to learn something new when it comes to innovation." And as I personally experienced yesterday, this even applies to companies that have 1,000 employees. And I never thought that this is a small company.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Everything you said.
Yeah. And then he says, how would, and even if we want to teach those people that they need to adapt a new approach, how do we reach them? Because they receive 30 emails every day from people who promise them the blue from the sky.
Right.
And then how to stand out from that? Yeah. So, but I continue with the questionnaire. The third question is, the company focuses primarily on next quarter's results. Company balances meeting quarterly and current year results with the requirement to invest in the future to support sustainable long-term growth. And that's the opposite. So the one side is company focuses primarily on next quarter's result versus company balancing quarterly and current year results with the requirements to invest in the future. So and what I've heard yesterday, that this large company with 1,000 employees doesn't have that. They get the money from financial institutions, and they need to pay either the interests that they have for the loans, or they need to meet the KPIs so that the investment manager still has trust in them and releases the next
tranche of money.
The next tranche of money. So that's also
Martin,
yes.
Martin. Yeah. So, if the investment group sits around with this company, they have a decision to make. You said 5 minutes ago, if they're making money feeding their family. So think of the BCG matrix. They could be a cash cow. And if the investors are fat, dumb, and happy, the cash cow is one that's high market share, producing cash, but not growing. So
Yes.
if the investors want to take some risk, they want to go to the star on the BCG matrix. They don't want a problem child, which means a high growth market, but they're going to have low market share. If they want to take some risk, they should be like Elon Musk, go for the stars, go for the high growth, new technology, new to the market, new to the world, and they can dominate like Elon Musk's strategy. All right. That's why he's a zillionaire. So the stars have risk, and the stars typically take cash flow and they can suck cash. So these investors of this company, whether it be small SME or big, I don't care. They have to decide, do they want to be a cash cow and milk the cow and be fat, dumb, and happy like the principals of this company, or do they want to be venturesome and new technology and embark on new things, new to the market, new to the world, new businesses and diversification? That's what goes on in the consulting world worldwide. For every consultant that a company goes to and says, I want to grow and I want to make more money. Well, they're not going to sit there and give strategy to be a better cash cow. So they're going to say, look, every day you're going to do something to create shareholder value that's new and make more money and growth and go for the stars, but there'll be a portfolio of risk. Not everything's going to be an iPhone. Not everything's going to be an Elon Musk Tesla. All right. So it has to do with the owners of the company. And this goes on in privately held as well as institutional shareholders at public companies. They sit there and they have to decide, what are they going for? Do they want to be a growing company with a Cinderella story, or do they want to be stick in the mud cash cow? And if the market on the S curve matures, the cash cow is going to end up dying a slow death. So there's risk and reward. And if they don't take the risk, they're not going to have the reward. They got to be up in the star of the BCG matrix.
There's another dimension to this too, Martin, and that is that these companies, basically have missed innovation opportunities, and they brought to market products that don't sell.
Yes.
So all of a sudden now, the whole management team is like, well, how do we know that's going to sell? Well, our rainmaker here, or the CEO that comes up with all the ideas, says it's going to sell, and okay, we're going to produce this product, and they sell some, but it never pays for itself, right? Nor does it give them any penetration and growth. So it becomes just another line item on the P&L, and it's like, now that's sucking cash, right? Because there's no volume related to it. So, and then they have another product that comes along that again doesn't gain any traction in the market and any market share, and it's just a me too, and it's just replicating me too stuff. So their innovation work becomes, well, we're just going to be relegated to this Me Too world, and they see that as okay, because hey, the big competitors have that product, we need that too, instead of trying to do something new and different and differentiated. And it's because they don't have any freaking market intelligence to tell them what to make, right? Or what are the problems to really be solving that everybody else is missing. And it's just amazing how it just goes around and around and around. And these companies get stuck in that cycle.
Yes.
Well, Rich, what often happens is if they don't do their market concept testing with customers, they're going to have an Edsel instead of a Mustang. Okay. And I call it supply push instead of demand pull. Okay. Again, and to your point, if they've got two flops, why did that happen? Well, statistically, only perhaps 1 out of 10 really become a success. So in the portfolio of the stars in the BCG matrix, companies realize they better do their market research. They better invest in stars that have a fighting chance of beating the averages. But statistically, again, only 1 out of 10 becomes the hula hoop or the iPhone. So you have to realize if you end up with this group of ideas, they could all be stars. You ignore all the others, they're chasing competitors, or it's a low growth on the S curve, it's mature. Let's say they know all that. They're going to go for the S curves that are new to the market, new to the world. They come up with a dozen of them at an annual planning conference, and they pick some. They better do some market research and competitive research with the ones they pick. And if it's new to the market, new to the world, there are very few that don't have some competition of some shape or form. So if they do their homework, and you can think of StageGate, you can think of Martin's thing, market readiness testing and all that, technology readiness, and voice of the customer, freedom to operate, all the big four things we've been talking about for 4 years. And then they can beat the odds. So take ITW. ITW has a much better track record on new product development successes than GE, for example. And you can make many, many examples. The companies that do this well do it with voice of the customer, voice of the competitor, primary market research, and they're very, very smart about taking one step at a time through StageGate and invest in a prototype, like Martin says, invest in pre-sales if that's possible, try and get positive cash flow, try to get customers commit to that product by paying up front, But if they do it well, they could beat the odds. If they don't, they're going to fall on their face and they're going to bet on losers.
Just to give you some very specific numbers from Frank Mattis' book, The Now and New, he spoke with British Petrol, BP, which is the oil company, and they have an R&D innovation expenditure of $100 million per year, and they counted what is the direct return of innovation that has been done 5 years ago, and they discerned between incremental innovation, which we say that this is just in textbook engineering. You don't need really be inventive, and you get the patent, yes, but it's not another fundamental one. And the success rate of the non-incremental innovation was 67%. So for each dollar they spent, they got 5 years later 67 cents back. And for the non-incremental one, this was for the incremental one. The non-incremental is only 7 cents on a dollar. So it was very, very, very little. And in his book, I have not yet finished it, but my plan is to do it by next week, because next Thursday we have Frank Mattis here, and we do a large ICI for the German Chambers of Commerce outside of Germany. My plan is to interview him about that and how he approaches that, and especially with the larger companies, and how he could drive that up. But to me, it looks like if 7% return after 5 years on each dollar spent is very, very little. And I believe most companies will not survive that unless you are trading oil. So,
but Martin, just to be clear, if it's 7 cents on a dollar invested and they take 5 years to get there, that would say it's a failure. Do they have any successes where they turn a positive profit and cash flow within even the 5 years? They must have.
I believe you need to talk with him next week and ask the same question. My guess is that they subsidize this laterally from the profits made with oil. But the innovation.
So they're throwing away this $100 million a year on R&D. There's no successes like the first with unleaded gasoline, a new motor oil. Do they have anything that they can be proud of? That's a blue ocean.
Okay, first you're wrong already, because they didn't throw away 100 million. They only threw away 93 million. So.
Well, but the 7 million, okay, the 7 million, you said the 7 million Mike, only produces 67% return after 5 years.
Mike, don't take it personal. I just made a joke. Of course you're right.
I took it as a joke, but I'm still trying to figure out, did the 7 million make any money? That's why I said 100 million down the toilet.
The thing is that the oil companies were forced to invest into green technology and wokeness and other stuff, and I believe that those 100 million were sunk on such stuff.
So it's a waste of money. Shareholders.
I kind of doubt it, actually. I almost bet half that money would be more in towards marketing and propaganda for themselves than actually going on it. But I'd have to try the money.
Joe, that's PR then. If it's PR to talk about clean up the planet and all that, a lot of oil companies done that. So yeah, that's
That's kind of my
promotion.
point, is whatever they were doing was more of a PR thing than anything else.
Okay, so we can't talk about it as product development and blue ocean innovation. We can talk about it as a marketing expenditure and PR.
Yeah.
It's like advertising in a newspaper.
Okay,
that's it.
so we know already more than last week. So next week we can grill Frank Mattes on that. So because these are but this company paid for improving that, and it seems to me that by adopting Frank's strategy, it helped tremendously. And what the core of his strategy is number one, wake up those managers and make them understand that before they start even working in innovation, they need to find out where they are. And he provides a coordinate system that largely consists of an ANSOF matrix plus the business canvas. Because most managers are not aware that they're into innovation when they are. And once that is realized, they need to adapt what they do, the technique, the tactics of developing that new product based on methods that are proven to work for non-incremental innovation. And for that one that is not only in the core. And then they would have success. And he's now very cautious because he, as he says, in young years, he worked in California because he studied applied mathematics in Caltech, I believe, at Caltech. And so in his younger years, he was pushing those companies to the non-incremental, the breakthrough, radical, whatever innovation, while today he's warning them to not go into that risky area, because the more risky it gets, the more adaptive must be your management to that. And it seems to me that this doesn't really work. And what I also, if you remember Chris de Armit in the very early days when we started this, he's a chemical engineer or chemist who worked for all the big chemistry companies, and he was so frustrated about innovation there that he wrote the book Innovation Abyss, and it's quite an insightful book that should be read by innovators, because if you're joining the wrong company, then you're stuck because your management doesn't promote your non-incremental innovation. And as we are now walking around the forest once or twice already over the many years, I realize more and more that realizing that knowing where you are in the coordinate system is more important than taking the next step.
That's very true.
Hey,
And
Martin, you picked one that's dear to my heart, because BP, before they became BP, they acquired Amoco. And Amoco, I'll talk with Frank next week. Amoco was very, very innovative. They diversified into a chemical company. So any oil company that they get into petrochemicals, and suddenly they've got a blue ocean that has trillions of dollars of growth potential. Amoco diversified into that. And when BP bought Amoco, I don't know if they kept the petrochemical business. Okay,
Rich, you wanted to say something?
yeah, I was just going to say that, when you look at the whole direction of these companies and whether they're big or small, knowing where you are is critical to, putting together an innovation strategy to begin with,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And most companies think, and one of the things I learned from Dick is that, which is sort of self-evident, but if you think about it, but really Dick reinforced was, basically taking that questionnaire, you can't rely on the answers from one person on that questionnaire. So you need to give that to, like, if there's a steering committee within the company for management of the company, which there typically is, and that steering committee can be, basically 3 people to 15 or 20, but each of them need to fill that form out. And then you need to do an analysis of that as an aggregate to really determine where they're at. Because one person in the organization thinks everybody knows what we're doing. Well, most of the time that's not true. I mean, 99% of the time it's not true. Because
Rich, in chemistry, one sensor is always lying to you. You just
Okay.
assume that it's lying to you. So one questionnaire, yeah, you assume that one's lying to you. So you have to get more than one.
Yeah.
So-
That's
so
an important
basically-
insight, right? I mean,
yeah.
it
So, I mean,
doesn't-
you need
it's-
to have, anytime I've used that, I've always gotten, basically if they say, well, there's only 3 steering committee in our company, the CEO, or the president, the VFO, right? And those are the 3 people, that are steering the company. And, that's who's the executive board. And okay, well, let's start there and see what the read is. And most of the time it comes back, they're stuck in the middle. There's no clear understanding of where the company is going. So you need a much broader understanding from a different group of people at different levels to understand what has really been transmitted down to the ranks as to the innovation strategy and the growth strategy of the company going forward.
Yeah. So
And how
now
are you going to achieve?
back to the second question. That would mean, is this link really understood by all employees? Right? It's not only sufficient to have the CEO and his 3 best buddies understanding it.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
in the times that I've done it with 3, I can pretty much tell you that in my experience that whatever the CEO wrote, that's pretty much what the other 2 are going to write.
Uh-huh.
Because they're blind to, they're pretty much in agreement with the CEO, and they're just following the beat, right? And so those 3 are in unison. So you have a lot of correlation between those 3. The
Yes.
issue is that the correlation is so close that it's useless.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah. So
guys, it's a culture thing, okay? If the organization is bureaucratic and is not flat, employees cannot give new ideas. And you're right, Rich, the top 2 or 3 in the exec offices run the company. There are some companies that have flat org structures, and there's only one line from an employee to the CEO, and the CEO does management by wandering around like Waterman's book. So I think it's a culture thing, and the companies have all sorts of different org charts, but the best ones are the ones where every employee is empowered to submit an idea and even champion those ideas. And the guy may not have ever stepped into an engineering class. He may be a machine operator, and he comes up with the next best idea, and the CEO appoints him to be the champion and lead the whole effort. So
yes.
those
What-
are the best companies. Those are the
What
best.
what might give you more insight into that are the next 3 questions, which are about customer focus. And now you decide what would be a difference what the CEO says plus his 2 best buddies, or would it be a difference what the janitor says? So question number 4 is, they see the customers as the most important stakeholders, or they see shareholders as the most important stakeholders. Now guess what the CEO would say. He would want to say, yes, the customer, but from below they only see, my CEO only talks about the stakeholders, which is in maybe a venture capital fund or something. Question number 5.
Well,
Focus is
hang on a second, Martin. That, in a 40, 50, the $100 million company, it could be the shareholders are the most important, not customers.
Even for the CEO? Yes. Yeah, sure.
Because they're worried about their dividends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Martin, a lot of CEOs get fired because the shareholders don't agree with the company strategy. So someone's got to go. It's just like a head coach on the football team. If they don't
Okay.
do well, they're gone. They either make their numbers and create
You know,
shareholder
so,
value, or they're gone.
so,
And in
you know, my,
U.S. tax policy, becomes a benefit to pay people in stock options than it does to pay them in salary.
But yeah,
My point-
Iacocca got a dollar a salary.
yeah, my point is that, you know, I've worked for a company where we were 46 million in revenue, and, you know, decisions were made. Let me put it this way. Some of the decisions that were made were in favor of the customer, of course, right? And they always are. But there were bigger decisions made in favor of what's this going to do to, you know, our income flow for the company, and what's this mean to us as the owners, the family owners of the company. And, you know, there's people living off these dividends that are paid out, right? And they don't want to harm that dividend flow.
Okay. The question number 5 would be, the focus is on delivering value to customers versus focus is on delivering value to the company. EPS, ROI, and MPV are of paramount importance. So yeah, you can see when the discussion is always about why did we fail our ROI by 10% this month? What can we do in order to bring it back? Also, when this is in the foreground, and not so much the value to the customers. So that
But
probably
Martin,
also
if you do well with customers, the EPS and ROI will take care of themselves. But along the way, you've got to beat or neutralize the competitors. So if you do those two well, if you win and hold customers and beat and neutralize competitors, you should have good numbers. I don't see the two in conflict.
I believe it's a telling sign if the meetings are all about those ROIs and ROI and maybe all those KPIs and not so much on what is the value to the customer. If the value to the customer is second place, I believe that's a tell sign of something is wrong. Now, question number 6: company has rigorous processes in place to uncover customers' unmet needs. All employees have access to the insights. And opposed to, wait, I go to a quieter place.
By the way, that never happens.
Is it?
Yeah, not all employees have access to insights.
Okay. In good
I've
companies, it should.
I've never
like
met a
that, right?
company. I've never met a company that every employee has access to research and insights gained about the market. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, probably also the guy on the machine shop wouldn't be so much interested in that, right? So
Yeah, I mean, now somebody can stretch it and say, well, in our quarterly meetings with the employees, you know, we tell them some of the insights gained from some of the work we do. Now, that's valid, but that question sort of is misleading because it's not definitive enough, right? I mean, the way it reads is that any employee could walk up to, you know, marketing and get, okay, hey, tell me the insights that you gained on.
okay, but that's not realistic, right?
No,
So,
that's not realistic at all.
Yeah. But maybe then question number 6, company on the one side, company has rigorous processes in place to uncover customers' unmet needs. All employees have access to the insights. And the contrary would be sales owns the customer. And few people outside of sales are allowed to access to customers. That's the spectrum, and that's what you just brought up, right?
Yeah,
of course.
And sales does. I mean, every company I've ever worked with, and probably Michael would say the same thing, is sales owns them. I mean, sales gets, for us guys doing innovation from a market discovery standpoint. I mean, if a sales guy isn't involved in that, the sales management team is like all over the CTO or all over the innovation officer about why were we left out of the program here.
Interesting, and that also explains why the software as a service companies have so little success, I would say, because for a software as a service company, if a new software is introduced to one of their clients, they would need to involve someone from the back office to explain how to best use that one, because the salespeople are not able to do that, number one. Number two, they don't have time for doing so because they need to look at the sales funnel. And number three, they might also not be interested so much because that's why they are in sales.
Well, Martin,
Right.
Martin, you have to ask at this company, where are all the people in contact with customers? So your point, the guy on the machine tool that never sees a customer, you don't care, okay? But if you've got a field service organization, let's say software as a service, if you've got people that go out and meet with customers, they're not selling anything, they're taking care of problems. If they're in front of the customer, they should be included as being well aware of what's going on in the front office and back and forth, so they could get a new idea from a customer on a phone call, software as a service. While they're fixing a bug, the customer also says, by the way, I need better coverage in China. I mean, so anyone who's got day-to-day contact with customers are the ones that have to be listened to, so that the top three guys in the front office don't screw up.
Okay, what I did is I did a blind test with them. So I signed up for one of their services, and I tried out what would happen then. And it's also because we need that service, right? So, and the result was that I got a subscription for free for 2 weeks, plus an extension of 2 weeks. But nobody ever asked me how am I doing with the software? Do I like it? What is the problem? So after 1 month, I just dropped out without paying for it. And it seems to me that's the general practice for that company. And that would explain a lot, right? Because the sales would own the customer, which means they have never told the back office that I already bought this and I might be someone who is interested in the outcome, but they just don't care. And maybe it's because we are so small. I'm an unimportant lead because our annual revenue is so small as compared with much bigger customers. And maybe they focus all the effort on those, but not on the small ones. But which is a problem also, because I'm a multiplier. So I tell others about that, and usually people would listen. But I just wanted to know what is going on, and for me that's really something that this company has no processes in place to uncover my unmet needs, and which is question number 6 of Dick Lee. And these are the first 6 questions, and then the next questions 7 to 16 are about how to manage innovation, and it's all about whether they have something like a management tool for innovation in place. I would say most of the small and medium-sized companies don't, because they're not even aware that they need innovation in order to survive more than 20 years. Then the next questions 17 to 23 are about culture and environment. It's more about do we see employees or associates as value creators, or are they just costs and dispensable? Or people are empowered versus people, leaders have responsibility but no authority at all. So project leaders have no authority to do. They are responsible, but they cannot make decisions. And also about communication, is tough to find out what is going on in the company, while the good companies have a system in place to communicate. And also, I mean, it's more about those culture things. But the final 2 ones are important. Are decisions made quickly, delegated down, or are decisions relegated up and they take a long time? And when I think about Chris de Amit with his Innovation Abyss, the most frustrating thing for him as a serial innovator was that he never got a decision. Whenever there was a stage gate, a gate meeting, and someone needed to decide something, then this person was on medical leave or somewhere else, and it took about 6 weeks extra to get from one stage to the next one, or from one phase to the next one. And the final one is something that I don't really understand, and maybe you can explain that better. Because in a company that is good in innovation, according to Dick Lee, cycle times are being reduced, while for the bad ones, Lean and Six Sigma are on a roll. To me, Lean and Six Sigma sounds like we want to squeeze out the penny from our production costs and improve there, while reducing cycle times is something that is independent of what it costs. We want to get the result quick. Am I right with this, or is this something that is far-fetched?
No, that's right. I mean, Lean and Six Sigma, those are all OpEx related, right? They're not focused on, new innovations. I mean, cycle times are important, as you get into production, of course, and reducing cycle time is critical. But I mean, those are all OpEx after you've released the product.
Yeah.
Well, you should do both, Martin. Okay, so Lean and Six Sigma, you'd think are companies that are cash cows and they're fat, dumb, and happy, so they're going after profit by reducing costs rather than invest to grow. But I think that the key is you can do both. They're not inconsistent. I've had clients that are so lean that they squeak. They've squeezed every last activity-based cost element out of the company, so there is no fat. But they're also very strategic on growing and finding new business. So
yeah, but there's then there's the opposite. Then there's the opposite, Michael, where they're so focused on OpEx and operational expenses is OpEx, by the way. You're looking at squeezing out the Lean and Six Sigma and some other Kaizen kinds of things that they think that's innovation.
Well, that could be the only way they can make their profitability and return on investment numbers, Rich.
No, Michael, you didn't get it.
Both.
You didn't get it. They confuse this with doing innovation.
Correct.
Right, Rich? That's what you wanted to say.
Correct.
It could be innovative to find a great cost reduction, though, Martin. Innovation for companies that are involved with cost reduction.
That's a
fun one. So,
yes,
we brought in a McKinsey, as you know, and I have no great things to say about them because really all they're doing is they're bringing in 5S and things that should have been done already. And let me say, the idea thing, which every company had that I've been in, the submit an idea and have operators, they brought their own template and then decided to take claim and say every idea that came in on their new template when they disallowed the old one was money that they would get a percentage of. And so it's nothing new and innovative compared to what was already happening at the company.
Yeah,
but they're going through these steps in order to claim and stake the money.
I believe you're all on the same page. Doing this, reducing costs is not innovation, as we understand innovation. And that's also the dilemma that the innovation people are inside, because when you put innovation under operational management, this is what the operational managers would do. They don't allow you to buy now this stand drill just because you need it as a part of your innovation. They would say, first, we need to compare some prices, get some suppliers, then we need legal to sign the documents, and so on and so on and so on. And that's why innovation in large companies is often so slow. And also the people who run operations and with being used to being sensitive about costs, they are frustrated when the innovation team is not under such restrictions, because it's a very different life. If costs don't play a role in the first place to such a big extent as it does in operations, in the normal ones. So that's why you often observe this hostility between the existing now team operation that produces profits, and when they see that there's another company inside the existing company that is throwing money out of the window from their point of view. And I've seen that maybe a month ago in China, where a Chinese asked me, for the first time I understand that this hostility is normal, because we are running an innovation company for more than 10 years, and they never get on their feet just because operations always makes their life difficult, because they are hostile against them. So I believe that explains a lot, right? That innovation also needs this freedom, I would say, to purchase stuff just when they need it and fast. And also what I saw just last week, also a big company, 1,000 employees, and they are setting up now, according to Clayton Christensen, a company in the company, a startup in the company that would do R&D. And now the existing company that pays for all that refuses to share the resources with them. So they had to shred some old files that were still in the office somewhere. So they asked the mother company, can you please take care of the shredding? And then they said, no, it's not us, and it's not on our KPIs, so we won't help you. And then so I had the CEO of that small startup, instead of inventing for 2 days or going out and asking customers about the real problems, he spent 2 days in an office room shredding files himself. So now the more I hear from different perspectives, the more I understand why the innovation in such companies is so difficult if it's not championed by the owners.
Yep, very
So-
true. Hey,
Yeah.
Martin,
Yes,
we only have a few minutes left here.
yes, go ahead, it's all yours.
I just have a simple question, and that is Frank on next week, did you say?
Yes, 18.
Okay. Just wanted to
Yeah.
confirm that.
Yeah. I'm reading his book. This is really something I must read, I would say. If you don't, it's something like Blue Ocean, Red Ocean.
It is, and
And-
that's why, I wanted Frank to come to us and present, his, when I found out that he had this new book,
Yes.
I was like, hey, Frank, you got to come and tell us about it. So it was,
Yeah, he will.
it was like,
And if you have noticed, we have recordings that are on YouTube now. So quite cool. And we can do lots of things with that content. And I believe we have high quality content as compared with other people that try to do a similar thing. Is also because we are on a how to say, on a very humble setup. Okay. So we are at the end of our hour. I thank you so much. I don't open a new can of worms for the last minute. And let's see us again next week when Frank Mattis is here. And we do the ICI on a much larger scale.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Martin.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Martin.
Bye.